Welcome, everybody, to the Soul of the Unexplained. I am your host, Jimm Kelgard, and with me, as always, is my all-star cast of co-hosts and co-conspirators, co-pilots, and all kinds of cool stuff. And just going around the room real quickly, we're going to say a quick hello to, first and foremost, our favorite podcaster, the gold standard of podcasting, in my humble and not-so-biased opinion, Mr. Jeff Freeman of the JFree906 Podcast. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic and excited. I'm excited for what may be coming down the pike. So I'll leave it at that until we get talking about it here.
Yes, indeed. We're going to have ourselves a fun conversation today. And of course, I have to give a big, big welcome to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John Stratton. How are you, sir?
I thought you were going to say John Nyberger for a minute there, you know?
I was getting a little worried.
I know. Man,
You're a
myth,
legend in your own
himself.
right.
In my own mind. Yes.
Heroes
Yes,
get
indeed.
remembered, legends never die. I appreciate it.
That's right. That's right. And of course, folks, my favorite Denver Broncos fan, the man who is the greatest bass player to ever grace the stage of Phenomicon. Of course, I'm talking about
Fantastic
Mr.
shirt.
John Nyberger. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. Greetings, fellow travelers. I love that shirt, man.
Yeah, right. I'm all excited now. I think it's probably safe to say that we're all pretty excited about Phenomicon 2026 coming up in September. And before too awful long, I'm sure we're going to be doing a podcast about Phenomicon 2026 to give a little bit of a preview of some of the exciting things to look forward to for that. But today, the reason why we brought everybody together is to have a bit of a panel discussion because holy cow, the last week has just been off the wall, insane stuff that completely blindsided most of us as far as the UAP topic goes. And of course, folks, if you watched our last episode, we had a conversation about President Obama. Former President Obama made kind of an off-the-cuff lightning round kind of type of remark on a podcast that he appeared on, wherein he was asked if aliens are real. And of course, his response was, they're real. And he kind of, added a few little bits here and there saying, but I've never seen one and they're not being stored at some underground facility at Area 51. And of course, we had a lot of fun with that. Now, here's the interesting thing, folks, is that just shortly after we posted that episode to YouTube, President Obama made another statement because, of course, people were going crazy. Like, oh, did you hear what Obama just said? He said aliens are real. Oh, my gosh. And, of course, so he issued a kind of a retraction, walked it back just a little bit, but that's not where the story ends, folks, because just a couple of days ago, it was kind of interesting because President Trump was being interviewed. I think it was on Air Force One, and I believe the reporter was Pete Ducey of Fox News, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, you're right.
And so he asked President Trump, hey, do you have any remarks regarding President Obama talking about aliens? And Trump kind of had a little bit of fun with it. And he's like, well, I don't really have anything to say about that. But and then he goes on talking about how President Obama shared classified information or something like that, which has had everybody kind of like scratching their heads like, well, okay, what would the classified information be? But anyhow, this all eventually resulted in the biggest shock of all. President Trump posted something on X, and I believe one of you has that little thing for us. Jeff, did you have that pulled up?
Nope, that's John.
So, folks, there's President Trump's statement that he left on X, where basically he says that he's directing, is it the Secretary of War? So, we used to call it Secretary of Defense. Now it's Secretary of War. Basically, he's directing him to start releasing all the files pertaining to UAPs, UFOs, aliens, and extraterrestrial life. And of course, as soon as that happened, now, as John Nyberger can probably tell you, I haven't been sleeping much. So, folks, if you see my eyes looking kind of, bloodshot and whatnot, I've had probably a grand total of 6 hours of sleep over the last 96 hours. So, just not having a good time in life at the moment. But that notwithstanding, my phone, I'd taken this nap in the afternoon, and when I finally woke up, I had literally something like almost 30 some odd messages from people saying, "Holy crap, can you believe what Trump just said?" And I'm like, all groggy. I'm like, "No, what was it?" And so when I finally saw it, I was like, "No, this has got to be a joke. There's no way this can be real." And turns out it was very real. So I guess the big shock. We'll kind of start. We'll kind of go around the room here. Jeff, when you saw what President Trump had said, what were some of the first thoughts that went through your mind?
Well, I'm going to ask if John Nyberger, if you'd put that back up for just a second, because I
Right.
wanted to read that. One of the things that I noted, and I always try to be, with President Trump, we know that when he's speaking in front of the media and all, what he does a lot, he just off the cuff, he says whatever comes to his brain and he just says it. But when he types things, thank you. When he types things, he's usually very careful about what he says. And I notice here it says to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and unidentified flying objects (UFOs) and all other connected. So at first he didn't say all government stuff or releasing all government files, but later on he does say all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. So that right there, it made me wonder, is he going to really try to release all? And if we do get a dump of this kind of stuff, this is what I thought to myself. Well, it's going to all be redacted. There's going to be so many black chunks on it that we're really not going to get a whole lot of the actual data or information. But I've been talking with John Edwards quite a bit lately and about this and about the whole thing ever since we saw the documentary Age of Disclosure. And I had mentioned then, I think I mentioned it when we had our podcast about it, and saying that, are we going to get everything? If there's a document dump, are we going to get everything that they have, or are they just going to be related to, yes, aliens are real? And I'm still doubting that we're gonna get everything. I don't
Right.
know. That's just, so that was my initial thought, was how much of this are we actually going to get and how much is gonna be redacted? So that was my initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, the interesting thing, and maybe some of our viewers and subscribers will know this, but I believe the National Defense Authorization Act of 2024, which was passed and signed into law, I want to say by President Biden in December of 23, basically had a provision that all government agencies that had any documentation pertaining to the UAP phenomenon for incidents and cases that were over 25 years ago, they had something like 300 some odd days to release them to Congress so that they could be released to the public. And on the off chance that any of those documents constituted compromising national security, they would not be released, but they would still have to go before the president. And the agencies that demanded to not have them released due to national security then had 6 months to review it, and at some point in time, some measure of those documents, even the ones that were not supposed to be, were supposed to have some form of a release. But of course, as we've seen with the UAP stuff, that law had absolutely no teeth to it. There was no consequences. So, of course, to the best of my knowledge anyway, none of those government agencies have supplied any of that information that the NDAA of 2024 required them to release, or at least if they have not been presented to the public like they were supposed to be. So, to your point, Jeff, you make an excellent point there. I would imagine that if it's anything like massive document dumps that we've seen in the past, probably going to be an awful lot of redactions. I think we're probably going to find out that some of the more recent cases probably will not be included in that because of they're still under review for national security and things like that. But I think anything that pertains especially to some of the more well-known legacy programs and incidents like Roswell, like Kecksburg, Kingman, Arizona incident, Cape Girardeau, Missouri. I mean, all of these things, it's high time that the public gets to know the real truth about some of this stuff. And I think it's probably a pretty safe bet that most people probably don't believe a lot of the official stories, certainly as far as Roswell. If you remember how back in 95 and 97, the government released this report saying, "Oh, it was all Project Mogul," and and then of course the media believed it and ran with it. But here's the problem: Project Mogul didn't even get started until after Roswell incident happened. So there was a lot of things that kind of leave an awful lot of distrust of the government, I guess we could say. But John Nyberger, what were your thoughts when this came out? Because I remember you were the first person that texted or let me know, and then Johnny's mom was the second one. So what
Well,
were your thoughts, John?
first off, I want to say I think Obama gets half a demerit for missing an Elaine Bennis Seinfeld joke. When asked if aliens were real, he should have said they're real and they're spectacular.
Awesome.
That would have been the ultimate answer. But no, of course we didn't get that. But it was interesting. We talked before President Trump ever came out with his response. We talked privately and wondered might he respond to that? Because we know he doesn't want to be one-upped by someone else.
Right.
That's is just not allowed, right?
Yeah.
He had to say something, but I didn't think he would go this far.
Yeah.
I honestly did not expect this. I mean, we joked about it, like, holy cow, imagine if this off-the-cuff comment by Obama is what actually led to disclosure by Trump. Like,
Yeah.
that would be crazy, right? And then the next thing you know, this message pops up, and I'm like, well, and it wasn't just that. He made the comment, that we saw, what was his name? Steve Ducey? Did I get
Pete
that?
Ducey.
Peter Ducey.
Pete Ducey.
Pete Ducey, yeah.
I'm thinking of the other guy. But yeah, very interesting. I thought, what if that actually did lead to something? Now, do I think it will? Absolutely not. I am so incredibly skeptical right now about all things government related that I
Yeah.
don't think one shred of anything useful is going to come from this. But I'm only saying that so I'm not disappointed. I will be incredibly delighted if something actually does come from it. And it might. Who knows? I just don't think
Well-
there's going to be any follow through. That my gut's like that. What we've heard is the end of it. That's kind of
Well-
what my gut is telling me, but I would love to be wrong about that.
So I'm going to give you guys a really interesting what if. Do any of you know what's coming up this Tuesday?
Not a clue.
I already missed Valentine's Day, so it's not that.
The State of the Union.
Yes.
Oh, I was worried you were going to say it was all of our anniversary or something.
Yeah. It's like, dang it.
Scrambling real quick. Oh, what am I thinking?
Like this is why
Cigars all
I
around for
don't
everybody.
anymore because of this. Do you know what next week is? No. Sorry, honey.
So I'm going to start the official pool right now of the odds for Trump saying something about disclosure or revealing something additional during the State of the Union. So I'm going to ask you guys what you think when we wrap up the show today. We're going to come back and revisit that. So be thinking how much of a likelihood there is that Trump mentions UFOs or UAPs during the State of the Union. So think.
That'd be wild.
File that on the back burner. Mr. Stratton, what were your thoughts when you saw this bit from Trump posting about what we've been talking about here?
Well, firstly, I got to address a little bit like what John was saying. I can see Trump sitting there hearing what Barack Obama said and go, you try to outshine me, try to outshine this. I bet you can't dunk over this tweet. Send that off. I mean, it is a bit of an ego thing, quite likely with that. However, my initial thoughts were, oh my God, this is great. And then that typical government bureaucracy side of my brain starts to kick in, and I realize there's a massive difference between what is put on X or Twitter and what is put into the order to actually do so. So
Right.
we haven't seen what this order is. I tried to dig it out. There's no order that I can find anywhere publicly stating to enact what he tweeted. So
Right.
is this, a smoking gun? No. I am pretty sure this is going to be very similar to what we've had in the past. It's going to be do this, no consequences. And the follow through is not going to be there because, I mean, how much longer do we have with President Trump in office? A little under 2 years at this point. They're just going to do what they always do. And they're going to wait him out. Any of the agencies out there don't like the president. They just have to wait him out and ignore what they're telling them to do.
Or
So
if they just
I
don't
feel
want to
that's
be a part of disclosure,
right.
Yeah.
they'll just,
So
just wait. Because look what they've done with what was it, the previous legislation that required them to release stuff
the National Defense
Yeah.
Authorization Act,
that they never
Yeah.
did. To
never.
this day, they never did. And it's like,
Yep.
all right,
So
there's no
there's no
consequences
teeth.
for it. So
Right. There's no teeth to what he's ordering. So we don't know. We haven't seen an order yet. Has he even actually given this order to do so?
okay, what about
Yeah.
this?
I don't know.
Here's a curveball. He has previously argued that simply saying something is declassified declassifies it, which isn't really how it works, but he has said that. So I got to look
Well,
back
there's
at
no real
how
guideline.
did he
There-
phrase that exactly?
There's no
Yeah.
real legal guideline for what makes something classified, declassified from the president's authority. So this is one of those problems where they didn't define it very clearly, I think.
Yep. And he doesn't say, he just says, I will be directing. So yeah,
Right.
well.
When
I was hoping maybe we could catch some hope in the wording. If it was phrased exactly a certain way, we could say, look,
right.
it's already been declassified. Release it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you
I
know
mean,
that-
I'm,
well,
I'm excited
guys-
to see something happen.
Me too. Absolutely. You know, you guys probably talked about this already previously, talking about what Obama said, but it was interesting that he said, oh, well, they are real, but I haven't seen any. And then he said something about Area 51, that there's no underground installation at Area 51. And I was thinking, was he trying to say that there's no aliens in an underground facility at Area 51? Because we know that there is an underground facility at Area 51.
Absolutely. Yes.
And then he was saying there wasn't one. And I was a little, okay, because he's off the cuff. He's on a podcast and he's just, talking about stuff. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But also, in Trump's response to that, Trump said, and this is kind of the thing that I've seen a few people on the internet point out, was that he said that Obama shouldn't have stated classified information. He's not supposed to do that. And then he was saying that he wasn't sure if, I think Peter Ducey asked him if aliens had ever visited, the world before, Earth before. And he said he didn't know, but he said he shouldn't have said that. That was classified information. It's like, well, was it?
Yeah.
If
Well,
there
and, yeah.
there's no classified, if it's not classified, then how could he be in trouble for saying what he said? Right. So yeah, there was a little kind of weird, some weird
Yeah.
comments made
I'm
there.
wondering, is it really classified? As far as
Yeah.
I know, it's not. The truth of their existence,
Well, that's just
would
it.
that be?
I think
That
that's
was-
in reference to Area 51 specifically, because anything regarding
Oh, that could be.
Yeah, that could be,
regarding the facilities is classified. So
Yeah.
stating whether there is or is not anything on there could be considered classified.
That could be. That could be.
I mean,
Yeah.
stating there's a telephone in the watch office could even be considered classified potentially. Depends on the
Yeah.
wording.
interesting. Yeah. Good
yeah,
point.
yeah. I was thinking
Yeah,
more
that
about
was-
the alien part, not the Area
That's-
51 part. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's the one thing that I saw a lot of people on X were having the big debate over, is what exactly would be the classified information that Trump was speaking about, and almost half of them stated, well, it had to pertain to Obama mentioning Area 51 and the underground, the underground facility aspect. Now, those of us that have studied this topic for a long time know that a lot of people that have been able to prove themselves being credible that they did work out at Groom Lake at one time, have talked about underground facilities. So whether or not that is in fact classified information, like Johnny's saying, is that's kind of where I would lean as well, because I have a hard time believing that the simple acknowledgement of whether or not non-human intelligence exists, how can that be classified? Because if they do exist, and of course I'm of the opinion that NHI in some form or multiple forms does exist. I mean, the mathematical near certainty of there being intelligent life elsewhere in the universe is again, it's a near mathematical certainty. So I believe that. But
I mean, I have a fairly credible source that stated that the fact that we are not alone and all of that nature is not classified. And given
And-
that this person helped write the classification guides and all of that and stated it in a public, documentary.
that's actually where I was going. So thank you. Because
Nice segue, Mr.
That's-
Stratton.
That's actually what I did. As yesterday, I watched Age of Disclosure once again, and that fantastic gentleman that you're talking about there, Johnny, did say that the fact that we're not alone should not be something that is hidden from not just Americans but the rest of humanity. I mean, why? I mean, what does that do? It just acknowledges, okay, we're not alone. Now, yes, if there is an official acknowledgement where they do say we are not alone, yeah, that's going to open up the floodgates to a lot of other questions that many of which they probably cannot answer and will not answer because the specifics of that would be classified. And those would be things like, what do we know about where they come from? Are there multiple races, multiple species? How did we obtain that knowledge?
Yeah, that's the
Little
key.
things like that. Are the rumors true that there have been retrieval programs and reverse engineering, exploitation of exotic materials? So that's the kind of stuff that really truly is classified. But just simply the acknowledgement that they exist or that we know that they exist, that I will fight that till the day that I die, that should never be classified, because we have a right to know that. Because if it's something that's a fact of nature, we have a right. I think we have a right to know that. Just my 2 cents. But to tie up what all three of you were saying, I agree. I am not holding my breath on this. I think it was awesome that Trump did this. I applaud him for releasing the statement that he did, but I'm afraid more than anything, it's just going to be lip service because, like you said, John, I've become kind of jaded on a lot
Yeah.
of this stuff.
God, we're
Maximum
so
jade right
cynical.
now.
It's
We are
it's
so
it's
cynical.
It's
we
kind of
that
bad.
that we are. I'm hopeful, and I do want to say that much. I am hopeful, and I do think that there's no sense in throwing in the towel. I think we are going to get traction on this disclosure, but it's going to continue to come piecemeal. It's not going to happen in this massive avalanche that so many people, and I guess that's just it. It was really hard for me to temper my enthusiasm when I read that tweet, and specifically the people that were emailing me or text messaging me about the Trump statement. There was equal parts disbelief, shock, surprise, and kind of like, wow, I can't believe he did this. But I will definitely applaud President Trump for doing it. I think it was the right thing to do. And like we've been saying, Trump doesn't like to be upstaged. He wants to do something that he knows is going to not only energize his base, but that's also going to give him, people will be, giving him the applause and stuff like that. A better bipartisan topic is there out there right now than UAP disclosure. And I don't think you're going to find one that has the same, almost a complete unity of bipartisanship across the board, with the exception of maybe a couple of representatives and senators that live in certain districts that are sympathetic to certain industries, shall we say. Um, but I think, if this is something that the people, and especially the media, because the media is the one that has to keep Trump on his toes on stuff like this. So we need the media to stay on it, to keep asking him those questions, to keep asking him the follow-up questions. So you made this great tweet, a couple of weeks ago, President Trump. What have you done so far to follow up? Do we have any progress? When can we expect the first, little things like that keep it on the minds of everybody? Because as we know, we live in, what is it, maybe a 72-hour news cycle if we're lucky.
If
So,
that.
24.
I mean,
I
there's
think we're at
going to,
6 hours now.
yeah, it seems like that sometimes, doesn't it?
Unless it's really embarrassing that it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. So I was actually, I mean, my response, being all groggy-eyed after reading it, I was really surprised. I did not honestly think that President Trump would go as far as he did. But again, maybe it's because I'm old and cynical and jaded, but I'm not holding my breath that there's going to be anything really bombshell shocking that's going to come out. At least nothing that we who pay attention to this topic already know about. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that I'm proven wrong. And so I'm keeping my expectations down here, but my hope is I'm still hopeful, I'm still optimistic, but I'm not sure that the most meaningful stuff is gonna be coming directly from the highest positions in our government, if
Yeah.
that makes
Well,
any
Always need
sense.
a fall guy.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's true. And if I may too, it's kind of like what I said when we were on your podcast talking about the age of disclosure. And I said that when I got done watching that for like the fifth time, even well, after the first time, when I got to the end of it, I just felt this overwhelming need to just keep telling everybody, we got to keep this going. We got to keep this out there. We got to keep it in on the internet and social medias. We got to keep it pressing on this. And I felt the same exact way after hearing what Trump said. We have to keep pushing this. If the American people keep pushing this information, keep saying, look, we got to know, we got to know, we got to know, and stay on top of this.
Mhm.
Hold his feet to the fire. Now, he said it. Let's hold his feet to the fire by keeping it out there in the public eye. I think that's going to help a lot. Also, if I may, too, there was, and I know I just saw this. I don't know if it was how long ago it was, but Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, she had come out and she was on with I forget her name, another one from Fox News, and one of the ladies there from Fox News, and she had said that, and she was talking about the Hellfire missile hitting the UAP. She said, "I have viewed," and this was with, and they brought up her Joe Rogan interview, and she said, "I
Mhm.
had viewed evidence of interdimensional beings here on Earth. They operate through the time spaces that we currently have." And I thought that was pretty profound. And she said it again on Fox News talking about that. She also has talked about that video, that Hellfire video, and said it was dead drop to Eric Burleson, and of the missile hitting it and being deflected away, and that was over off the coast of
Right.
Yemen. And so, was she under age of disclosure? I can't remember. Was she one of the ones that was on?
Luna, I think Luna was in Age of Disclosure for a brief
I think,
bit.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
she had one little clip in there. But
yeah.
that's pretty interesting for a congressperson to say, a congresswoman to say, evidence of interdimensional beings here on Earth. I mean,
So, and that actually, there's gotta be this is no coincidence, Jeff, and I hope you guys don't think I'm any weirder than I know you already think I am. But as I was watching Age of Disclosure yesterday and listening to Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis talking about this bubble that envelops these UAPs that causes them to travel at these incredible speeds and do these amazing maneuvers, and how there's like time displacement, time distortion, bending of space and time, that kind of thing. So what if these non-human intelligences, and I don't know if this would fall under the interdimensional hypothesis, but what if these NHI exist? The reason we don't see them is because they exist out of our time, if that makes any sense. That they're still there, they're still in the same spaces, if you will, the same kind of dimensional space, but a higher, different dimensional plane. And I know I'm doing a piss poor job of articulating this point, but it made me wonder if maybe the reason why we don't see these things, maybe the reason why they're invisible out at Skinwalker Ranch, like at the blob that they always see in this whatnot. Maybe the reason we can't see them is because again they're in this different fold of space and time where they're still here, but they're moving at such a speed that we can't detect their movements. Um, and I'm sure I've probably
It's
got
like a
everybody's.
ripple in the time space.
Exactly, exactly. And it's like until they get a resonance at the right frequency to where they appear within that range of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can actually catch a glimpse of them, if that makes any sense. And I know I'm talking gibberish, so I'll just shut up now.
no, that's
That's okay.
what she said. They operate through the time spaces that we currently have. So in and out of our time spaces. So it's
Yeah.
exactly what you were just talking about.
And that thought came to me just for the first time ever yesterday as I was watching that one segment in Age of Disclosure where Hal and Eric Davis are talking about that the science, the presumed, the speculated science of this bubble that exists around these UAPs and why they seem to have kind of like a halo or a glow around them, and it's actually like this bubble that allows them to travel the way that they do, and through solid objects as well, like we've seen it again, Skinwalker Ranch. So, but yeah, so interesting thing, folks. So we had another very notable individual that made a statement regarding President Trump's statement. And Johnny or Jeff, does one of you have that
I
pulled
do.
up here?
I have that for
Alrighty,
you. I have it
and
right here.
alrighty. So, Jeff, would you mind reading that to us?
President Trump's announcement that a landmark occasion for is a let me start over. President Trump's announcement is a landmark occasion for us all. After years of fighting for disclosure behind the scenes, I couldn't be prouder to be part of this turning point in human history. Congratulations and thank you to Dan Farah for making a truly groundbreaking film, The Age of Disclosure. Less than 3 months after the film's release, two U.S. presidents acknowledge non-human intelligence life exists, and President Trump has issued a historic disclosure order. We are all living in the age of disclosure. There will be more watershed moments and issues to face ahead, but I hope all of humanity celebrates this moment. And that's Jay Stratton. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more on that. And yeah,
Right. So straight from the man himself, and
yeah,
that was like I was actually more excited to read Jay's comment
here,
than I
here.
was
Yep.
for Trump's, and that's one thing that I think I'm most excited for is, we have Jay's book is going to be coming out soon, and I have a feeling that it's going to be another watershed moment that Jay talks about. Whether he meant to refer to his book as one of those watershed moments, I don't pretend to know, but for me, that's going to be a watershed moment is when Jay's book finally drops, and I'm so grateful that we have such highly credible, honorable people like Jay Stratton that are definitely in our corner, as it were, as far as moving toward disclosure. I don't think we could find and hope for a better advocate to bring some of that truth out from the shadows than Mr. Jay Stratton. That's
Yep. I agree.
just my opinion.
A man of few words, and yet he puts pen to paper well.
Yes,
Yeah.
he does.
He does. He does
Yeah.
for sure.
That
What
he
I think is
does.
really important that we have to note, and I'm surprised that he didn't bring this up, at least not on Twitter or anything like that, is something that Jeff was kind of alluding to earlier. The thing about this is, just since the film, The Age of Disclosure, came out, not only are we looking at two US presidents and all of this stuff going on with edging us towards disclosure, people are talking about it more. We got to stay on or, fired to the heels, as you were saying. If people stay on top of our politicians, on top of the press, and continue to say that this is something we want to know more about, this is something we deserve to know, eventually it's going to get to a point that they have to. And we might just see full blown more disclosure coming out pretty soon, sooner than we probably imagined. So the film has done its job of public awareness and getting more people to talk about this.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I think it was Jeff. You mentioned putting pressure, continuing to put pressure as these things come out, and I think that's an excellent point, because even if nothing immediately comes from Trump's post, maybe he doesn't initially actually give an order. Who knows? At a minimum, he put it out there.
Mhm.
This is now a question he can be asked directly. Mr. President, you said such and such. You said you would release this information. What's the status of that? Have you given the order? Where are we on it? What's happening? And that is valuable in and of itself.
Absolutely.
And even if we don't get anything in the next 2 years, now it's a question that can be asked of the next president. Mr. President, Mr. President
100%.
elect, President Trump said he would do this. Do you commit to doing this as well? Do you commit to continuing the process of disclosure in your administration?
Well, and you bring up an excellent point there, John, because again, there's a moment in Age of Disclosure where they're showing a clip from the 2016 presidential debates, and Chris Christie, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, is given the UFO question by the
Yep.
debate moderator, and he's like, "Come on, I get the UFO question." But think about it, folks, and back then, even in 2016, because at that time, the New York Times article hadn't come out yet, right? And so it's like now this is no longer a fringe topic. Now the conceivably every candidate that runs for the office of president in the United States is going to have a prepared answer whenever that question comes up. Because if there's one thing that Age of Disclosure has done, is exactly what you said, John. And you as well, Jeff. Is it started the conversation? It's gotten people talking, and it's made that topic less stigmatized than it ever used to be. And there's still obviously a fair amount of stigma attached to it. I found that people are more willing to talk about UAPs and UFOs, but when you start bringing NHI into the conversation, there's still quite a bit of pushback from people that are still a little reluctant to maybe go as far as talking about NHI. But again, I think it's just a matter of holding people's feet to the fire, as both of you have said. And again, the way that we keep this in the collective consciousness of the American public and really everybody all over the planet is to continue having the conversations. Talk about it. Talk about the things that we know can be backed up and verified with data and with credible testimony because I think that's the way forward is just to keep talking about it, via our podcasts and stuff that we do, just having conversations with people. You would not believe how easy it is now for me. A lot of times I'm walking, when I go out shopping with my wife or something, I'm wearing my Skinwalker Ranch hoodie. And
I'd
without question, almost everywhere I go, somebody says, "Holy cow, Skinwalker Ranch, that is so cool." And complete strangers, it strikes up a conversation and we get to talking. And I invariably ask them, "So what are your thoughts on UAPs and UFOs?" And seriously, probably the last three or four instances that I've had where I've come across people that have asked me about my Skinwalker Ranch hoodie, they're like, I didn't used to be a UFO person until all this stuff started happening. And they're like, and that show really opened my eyes that there really is potentially something out there, that there's something that may be here on Earth. And I mean, how can we not be excited? How can we not be grateful to see that happening? I mean, just I see it just, I'm an absolute nobody. I can't imagine what it's like for our friends that are out there at the ranch that there's kind of celebrities in their own little towns there that they live in. I mean, we've heard Caleb and some of the other guys talk about how people will, pull them aside when they're out shopping or doing whatever and talk to them about the show or the ranch. But it's little things like that, and I can't overstate the importance of a program like The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch because it does so much to show really what's going on. And as Brandon Fugel has said a number of times, I think the most meaningful disclosure is going to come from private enterprises like what we see happening at Skinwalker Ranch. And I'm just really, really excited.
You have to think
I would
too
hope
about
so.
the other side of it, the fear factor.
Yeah,
There's a lot of us, folks like you and I and those in my circle that like to talk about this stuff are very excited about disclosure and have always believed that we're not alone in the cosmos. But there's a big fear factor out there too. And there's a lot of
yeah,
people that don't want that knowledge. They do not want to think that there's life elsewhere. Very strong. There's a big segment that don't want that information. And what do? I mean, they're gonna fight against it, I think, at some point
yeah.
too. You go back to that whole movie of with, Jodie Foster, Contact, was it?
Contact. Hmm.
The ones that wanted to take down that facility or did take down that first facility because they did not want that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what's gonna happen there? We
I
gotta be
mean,
ready for that as well.
look at what they were fighting with under the OSAP and ATIP program. They were fighting the religious people that didn't want this stuff to possibly even be investigated because it's obviously demons. And, you just had those people. What's funny about, talking to people is, lately, I mentioned, oh, President Obama said such and such, and then Donald Trump. The immediate response I've gotten is, there's bears in space. Who are we invading now? That's all they can think. Because
Yeah.
to them, there's zero seriousness to this topic. But what's fantastic about a president, this just popped back into my head with us talking about more eyes and more people. With the presidents talking about this, that means even more people are going to have this in front of them that didn't have it before. So if the age of disclosure didn't get to these people, the presidents are talking about this stuff.
Right.
Perhaps maybe then they'll see the film, they'll see some stuff and realize, there's some substance to this.
We just need to convince the administration that the Zeta Reticulans have oil and a lot of it.
Well, hey, yes.
Well,
And
I've
minerals
posed a
that we don't
theory.
have now that are very useful to us.
That's right.
I posed a theory that all of this stuff with ICE is actually just a training ground right now for the new MIB that they're going to form. And they're going to bring back Will Smith. He's going to help out and form it. But they're just trying to work on aliens. And the closest thing that they could have right now is, the illegal immigrant aliens. And so they're training there. That's the theory right now.
Hey, check
because
this out.
we're getting that oil.
I just saw this because I had Twitter open because we were looking at the Twitter posts from Jay and from Trump. But I see one from earlier that says about Representative Luna saying that she's going to meet with the FBI and Department of Defense this week to push for the release of UFO footage. And she says, I will be sharing with the American people stuff that was briefed to us directly by the FBI. I'm not telling people what to believe, but it's definitely hard to explain. And then she says the task force on the declassification of federal secrets will be ensuring that the declassification order by the president is followed through on.
There you go.
There we go.
We need
So that
somebody.
means there is an order.
We need somebody who's got who's going to put the teeth behind the words. If Representative Luna is that person, more power to her. Absolutely, 100%.
Someone say she has claws.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, there's also too, there immediately when Trump said that, I saw, going across Reddit and things like that, they were saying, oh, he's just trying to distract from, Epstein files and all this other kind of stuff. And it's like, I mean, that's that uphill climb that we're going to have through this whole thing. It's like, oh, the only reason Trump brought it up, he's trying to distract from his own wrongdoings or the things that he's doing in Iraq or whatever it may be. Unfortunately, that you're going to get all of that in this, but I think it's important that we keep pushing it as we have been talking about.
Well, multiple things can be true too. Like it might be that, but it might also be real.
Yeah.
Like now's the time to disclose.
And that's what it comes down to, John. I think you essentially stole the words out of my mouth that I was about to say, but it's both of those things can be true, and obviously, folks, we're not going to bog ourselves down in a political discussion here, but it's what it comes down to is if this was meant to be a distraction from the Epstein files, mission accomplished. It worked. And quite frankly, I'm glad that he did what he did, whether that was the reason for it or not. But the simple fact is, folks, like you said, John, I mean, if he's guilty of the stuff that people are accusing him of for the Epstein files, then that's going to catch up with him eventually. And you just have to have faith in the process, just like we have to have some kind of faith in the process of disclosure. We can still be jaded. We can still have our cynical views on certain things. But at the end of the day, and people know, I'm an independent. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. So I'm going to tell you specifically how I feel about each individual thing without any kind of allegiance to any party or other. And my belief is that it's what President Trump did with this announcement was a good thing. And it's going to make the process a little easier in some regards. But at the same time, let's be honest, the gatekeepers that have been sitting on this information for all of these years, they're going to bring their A game as well. And they're going to do everything that they can to prevent the really important information to let the goods, the really good goods come to the forefront. And I think the battle for disclosure has officially begun.
I think they can officially say, like Obama did, aliens are real, and yes, we've had some communication or whatever. Still not give up and we talked about this when we discussed age of disclosure, but still not give up the fact that they have reverse engineered some of the stuff that they may have and have turned it into either stuff that we use today that we don't realize, like our cell phones, how quickly they came about, but also any kind of military applications that they may have from this. They don't want to give up our hand to our adversaries. I understand that. Don't care.
Right.
You don't have to talk about that. Just get on with the fact that you do know and a little bit of some of the evidence showing that you do know, why you know. And if we've had actual contact with alien beings at NHI, then tell us that. without giving up the goods on what you may have done with it militarily.
Right. Now, I 100% agree with that, Jeff. It's interesting. It was on. I don't know if it was Friday or what day it was, but I was listening. I was riding in the car and I had one of these news radio channels on, and I forget who the talking personality was, but they were basically saying that, maybe some of what we saw happen in Venezuela with the high technology that was used in Venezuela with the apprehension of Maduro, maybe that's just the tip of the iceberg of some of the reverse engineering stuff that we've been able to accomplish. And um, it adds another layer of, where is some of this, amazing weaponry and amazing technology that we're seeing come out bit by bit these days? Where is it coming from? Is it possible that it was gleaned in some way, shape, or form from some of these reverse engineering and exotic material exploitation programs that we've heard so much about? So I think the upcoming weeks and months are going to be really interesting, and I'm going to be paying real close attention to what happens with everything. So I didn't catch that. Whoever put that in the chat, sorry, I don't have my glasses.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah, I'm really I'm hopeful, but I'm not holding my breath that anything really major is going to come out. I hope that I'm proven wrong, but I'm confident that eventually things will go well. That's just me. So
I just saw another update.
Oh, all right. This is
Well,
happening in real
this
time.
is kind of the reverse of the one that I just read.
Oh,
I was just quickly scrolling Twitter to see if there was anything topical. And here's something from yesterday. Sean Kirkpatrick, former Arrow,
here we go.
responds to Trump's UFO announcement, saying the public shouldn't expect any further revelations.
Of course.
really?
Because this is both a distraction and a diversion from the fact that we're about to attack Iran
See, that's what I was.
and a response to Obama's public attention on the matter.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, the latter might be true. I mean, sure, yeah, it might be true. It's a distraction and a diversion. Absolutely. Nevertheless, like we said earlier, it still puts it out there.
It's out
Now there is this expectation that, okay, where is it? Even if it's a distraction for now, a few weeks from now, a month from now, 2 months from now, people can say, look, what's going on? And Congress isn't going to let it go. I've seen posts from Luna, from Mace, Moskowitz, and others. They're all like, great, let's get going. We're trying to introduce legislation. We're trying to have hearings to do exactly this type of thing. So great. It's great to see that the president's on board. So
Absolutely.
it's just going to help push the process along, hopefully.
I agree.
Yep.
Yep.
I appreciate what Nancy Mace said, that she's demanding exactly that, the disclosure, and the truth belongs to the American people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It,
Now,
that's
now,
just a fact.
Jeff, you've actually got an interesting podcast episode coming up that is going to feature the gentleman that we had on our last episode of our podcast. Tell us about what you've got coming up, Jeff.
Well, on Thursday night, coming up here, what's today, Sunday, so it's what, the 25th, 20, something like that. Thursday night this week, we have a couple of gentlemen from MUFON that are going to be joining me. That's Dustin Exelson and also Greg Cisco. Greg is the director for Illinois and MUFON Illinois, and of course, Dustin is the director for MUFON Utah. And great guys, both of them. And I've got talking to Greg from Illinois quite a bit. And he is also, and I wish I had this up in front of me, but he is also part of the video. He does the video and photography analysis team on all the stuff that they get when people send them videos and all that. Because there's been that topic what we talked about is, can we trust what we see in social media anymore with AI? People are
Right.
making up all kinds of stuff, and when somebody posts something, can you even believe it anymore? So we're going to be talking to both of them gentlemen on Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and they're going to be going through some of this, and we're going to be talking about this particular disclosure subject as well. Greg is a really good. He's been doing this for a long, long time, and he also has his own analysis on the Hellfire missile hitting the UAP. And then, again, that's something that, we talk about. You were talking about our military capabilities these days. Can you imagine that we had anything that was able to actually hit one or cause any deflection off of one? I would have said no. They're way further advanced than we are, and there's no way that we could even dream to damage them. But yet, here we go. Did we actually? Well, we're going to get into that with Greg on Thursday night.
Well, that's one
most
reason why I
people-
don't believe that that's a real video or of a missile hitting a UAP. I think it's a balloon because we know from experience you're not going to launch a freaking hellfire. Give me a break at a UFO.
We'll see.
You know what I mean?
I do. I know.
It's our weapons, the variety of weapons we have available to us, including the hundreds that are classified that we've never even heard of. Are they going to launch a hellfire at a UAP that could just disappear in an instant if it wanted to? I think it's kind of silly.
What I think is interesting is most people would think that the U.S. military doesn't possess technology that's capable of defeating something like a Hellfire missile. But what we've recently seen the deployment of into the Arabian theater is one of the best named devices I've ever heard of, which is a new advanced electronic warfare weapon. Weapon is inaccurate, but it is called the Angry Kitten Pod. It is amazing. And what they do is they have these aircraft. I forget what they actually call it's another creative kind of funny name, but I call them sacrificial lambs, where they have aircraft that are not stealth, not hidden, that they put this pod on to send into an airspace and purposely attract surface to air missiles because they will essentially stop this surface to air missile so that they can, essentially disable, make combat ineffective the missile defense systems of another nation by using an Angry Kitten pod. It's just the best thing in the world. But what that shows, and why I think it's worth mentioning, is there is the technological capability to do things like that to our Hellfire missiles, to other missiles too. I mean, maybe not the Hellfire. I don't know. That is above my head. But there is a technological capability that this could have been ours. This could have been collecting information that was leaked that was actually ours, and they have to have a cover story. So there's always that possibility.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. I don't know. I'm always kind of a little bit extra skeptical whenever there's any kind of new video evidence that comes out, just because of how many times we've gotten our hopes up and it ends up being something perfectly mundane and rational or a complete hoax and fabrication. So I just the old saying of trust but verify, right? That's kind of where I am on all this, and it's unfortunate because there's so many people that really do want to get to the bottom of this, and there's a lot of people that I've come across in the field that are altruistic in their ambitions to get the truth out there. But we also see there are so many people that want to use it for their own personal gain, their own personal celebrity, and we won't mention any names, but there's no shortage of those kinds of people. And of course, I would expect Sean Kirkpatrick to come out and say something and try to throw a wet blanket on everything because he's Sean Kirkpatrick. That's all we have to say. And that's all I'm going to say, because it's a Sunday and I don't want to be using language that I shouldn't be using on a Sunday. So
yeah. Sadly, this topic really brings in people.
She'll throw something at me.
Sadly, this topic, it really brings in people with an ego that has to be all about them.
It does.
And we have to remember it's not all about us. It's not about me or I. It's about the American people and the people of the world.
Yep.
And for anyone wondering,
Absolutely.
I pulled it up because, I can't mention it and leave everyone hanging. The type of aircraft that they put it on, which would be like an F-16, something like that, they call it a wind weasel.
Wind weasel.
A wind weasel.
Hmm.
Weasels, they get into places and they cause chaos.
Yeah.
Hey, check this out. Again, I couldn't stop scanning Twitter because there's a lot of really interesting posts all like in a cluster. Representative Luna, from her personal Twitter account, posted a picture, and we've all seen it. It's the wormhole that shows the plane of space kind of curved around with a wormhole funnel down the middle. It's the one we always see. Travis uses it on Skinwalker Ranch. We've all seen it.
Yep.
She posted just that picture with no commentary.
Wow.
And I just saw one that's trending on Twitter that has essentially the same thing with a a flying saucer in the middle of it, but it had a bunch of math equations on it. I won't share it until I can figure out if the math is anything realistic, but it looked really interesting.
Yeah, send it over to Travis. Travis,
Travis, interpret
Goddamn.
this for us.
Looks like numbers.
is this it?
They got letters as numbers. What are they doing?
Yes, indeed. So let's just kind of have a little bit of fun with our last little segment here. So, what are your thoughts? What do you guys, if let's take the we have the good old fashioned extraterrestrial hypothesis, which of course states that the non-human intelligence would be from elsewhere in the universe, elsewhere in the cosmos, coming to planet Earth. So that's the ET hypothesis. Then we have the interdimensional hypothesis, which posits the possibility that these beings may not even have the same kind of physiology or even have bodies made of flesh and blood, but they reside in higher dimensions than our own three-dimensional world. So that's the interdimensional hypothesis. And conceivably, that could also include what we would traditionally call angels and demons and things like that. Consciousness, I guess we would say. So then that's the second hypothesis. The third is one of my favorites, and that's the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. And the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis states that we may be sharing the planets and have been sharing the planet all along with an advanced race, an advanced intelligence of creatures that are able to keep themselves hidden by virtue of their advanced intelligence and advanced technology. Some people think that they would be based in our oceans. What better place to hide on planet Earth than deep in the oceans? Or they're located deep underground and they have these underground bases, as it were. So that's the crypto-terrestrial, that they are species native to our planet, or at least they've been here on the planet as long as we have. And then there's the extratemporal or intertemporal hypothesis, which posits the theory that they might be time travelers, conceivably from the future, that it's us from the future sending teams and technology back to do who knows what. Obviously, bringing back all the Infinity Stones to where they belonged, restoring them to their timeline, just like Steve Rogers did, right? But that's another hypothesis. And then, of course, the fifth one is, of course, the simulation theory, that we're all living in a simulation, kind of like the Matrix. Gentlemen, I'm going to ask each one of you, we'll go down the line here, of those 5 theories, pick either one or maybe even your top 2 of ones that you think have the most merit of potentially being true. And Jeff, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. Well, had to pick me first. All right. I'm going to go with 1, 2, and 3, if I may, because I don't really want to think that 5 is the possibility that we're in a simulation. It's possible, I suppose. But I think that 1, 2, and 3 are going to be my favorites. And I think all 3 of those are quite possible, simply because of what we've seen. Some of the cryptid, I think, was that 3? Was
3,
that,
yep.
yeah, I think cryptid. We've seen some really strange stuff. People have that I personally have not, but people have, and so I think that's definitely a possibility. And I think that the interdimensional, I think that those, I think if there are beings that live in other galaxies, because I find it hard to believe that there's beings that live within our own galaxy. I mean, our own solar system. Okay, so if they're going to travel here from outside of our solar system, then they're going to need to be able to travel quickly. Okay, warp speed, how quickly is that going to work for them to get here from? It depends on how far away they are, right? So, can they travel interdimensionally by means to get here quickly?
Right.
So I think that's good. And then you had the time one. I don't want to think that they are are humans from the future coming back and messing with things here. I just hope that that's not the case. You think about time travelers coming back and, let's say, saving Kennedy from dying. Okay, what repercussions could that have? And then there's those that say, nope, you can't. Once it's set, it's set. Well, I don't know. So I'm going with 1, 2, and 3. All 3 of those are my top pick. Outside of our solar system or outside of our galaxy and interdimensional, and I forget what was the
Crypto.
third one? Crypto. Yes, those 3.
Okay.
That's my pick.
I will say,
Excellent.
apparently it's
Thank you.
okay for Captain America to alter the timeline for the sake of a girl. That's where we're
Gotta have your priorities.
priorities.
That's right. Jeez, man. Speaking of priorities, Johnny, what are your thoughts on this? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or all of
I
the
mean, I'm not
above?
good at numbers, but despite being, a crypto terrestrial myself, apparently, hiding in a basement, I find it, that all of them are, possible. I think that the time traveler stuff is a little less possible. I think that the science never quite could get there. I don't think that we could travel backwards in time. I know that the science out there says that forward time travel is,
Forward,
you
right?
know, in theory possible, but I find it really hard to believe that that will be in any way actually possible. Now, them being here already, I feel is pretty unlikely. Now, traveling from, millions and millions of light years away, also pretty unlikely, but I feel it is more likely that we would see something from outside of our planet just because, it feels a little more likely that we would have found them if they were already here. Now, could they have recently, in the last couple hundred years, came here and set up shop in the oceans? Maybe. There's people that talk about how there's 3 underwater bases that we may have discovered. There's no evidence of it really. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm hopeful, but apparently cynical.
No worries at all. Mr. Nyberger,
I will say I don't really buy the extra tempestrial model either. I'm not really into the whole time travel thing, But the others, I think all of the others are true. The the extraterrestrial, off-world visitor could be true. The crypto-terrestrial model, the interdimensional model, and I absolutely believe we're in a simulation. And consciousness is the basis of that simulation.
Ooh.
excellent, fascinating.
Is that
Yeah.
the blue pill or the red pill?
I think it's the purple pill.
Okay.
Well,
You take them both.
here's the thing on that simulation. People say, there's been the talk too a little bit about everyone's. See, my reality that I'm living in is the true reality for me, and all of you are players within my own personal reality. So I'm living my own. Now, you might have your own, and Jimm might have his own, and Johnny, you might have your own. Oh, yeah. How does that fall into that? Is
Yeah,
that a
I don't know.
simulation too?
I
That's
believe I
one.
said
That's
it
one
maybe
model.
last
Yeah.
episode. Reality is reality as you perceive it. Everyone has their own.
Yes.
And when
Yeah,
you start
see?
getting into mental health issues, then they have a totally different reality from reality, which it's this whole mess.
That's
Yeah.
another show right there.
Wait a
I
minute.
could
are
go
you guys-
on.
Are they and have extrasensory abilities, or are they insane and they're hallucinating?
The host is calling
Time-
timeout.
Timeouts.
What?
Are
You
you
don't
guys
like us heading off into?
Hey, are you guys insinuating that there may not be an Easter bunny? Because
Ooh,
if that's the
well-
You're
case, we're
telling me
gonna.
the Easter
If
Bunny's
that's the
not
case,
real?
we're gonna have words.
We
Next
have
thing you're gonna
evidence
say
of the
Santa's
Easter
not
bunny.
real.
We've
Okay.
eaten the Easter. We've eaten Easter eggs, Jim. We have the evidence.
There you go.
That's
All
more
right.
evidence than we have for UFOs.
Right on. Well, for
Easter bunny, yeah, cryptid.
that technically would be a
Ooh,
cryptid, wouldn't it?
there you
Jeff?
go.
That's
That would be
that's
a
an excellent point.
terrifying
The
cryptid.
Easter bunny
See?
is a cryptid. It
Yeah.
makes sense now. Oh my gosh!
That supports the crypto-terrestrial model. Then
Holy cow!
What if the Easter Bunny has
we
been
just
Bigfoot
solved
this
a
whole
major
time?
mystery. Wow!
There you go. That's my
I knew
tip
it.
for today.
Our subscribers are going unsubscribe.
enough of this.
And all those people that aren't yet subscribed are going, I ain't clicking that button.
Right?
They're going to hit that
sorry
down
about
vote
that.
button.
Yeah, I took us
They're
down
giving
that
us a
road.
thumbs
Sorry. Yeah.
down. No,
Good
give us a
heavens, good
thumbs
heavens.
up and click
Thumbs
that
up,
subscribe
yes.
button if you haven't.
Come on, folks.
If
We
you've
have
been
Jeff
here
on the
this long-
podcast. Give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
If you've been here this long and
I'm the
haven't
one who said
subscribed,
it.
there's a problem. Come on. You
Jeff
want to see
deserves
us
2 thumbs
argue
up.
about the Easter Bunny? I'm telling you, we do it every time we're on here. We argue about the
Where
Easter Bunny.
else do you get this sort of high-quality content
Exactly.
about the Easter bunny? Give me a
Yeah.
break.
Mental health.
Yes, indeed. Well, for my input on the potential theories, I think the two most likely from my perspective would be the crypto-terrestrial and the interdimensional hypothesis, with the ET hypothesis coming in a very close number 3. So Jeff, I'm right there with you. I think those are the most likely the three that make the most sense to me. And I don't know why, but the crypto terrestrial seems to resonate with me quite a bit, not just because of the Easter Bunny, but I think in terms of how we have all these reports going clear back to ancient times of amazing things being seen in the sky, and we have these petroglyphs right here in Utah, like at McConkey Ranch, that are clearly depicting what we would in modern times, they look otherworldly, is what some of these depictions look like. But of course, devil's advocate, they could also be extraterrestrial, right? They could be from some other civilization. And, as far as, solving the, Fermi's paradox, where is everybody? Quite simply, if there's an advanced civilization that has figured out how to travel by means of what we would call the Laurentian traversable wormhole, then you could conceivably be in Zeta Reticuli or Vega or wherever and travel nearly instantaneously from that part of the universe, different galaxy, everything to, you know, right here on planet Earth. Just because if you had the technology and figured out how to unlock that, now to us that's still science fiction, right? Because we don't quite understand how that would work. We have some theories, but the amount of energy, particularly negative energy, that would be involved to create something like that, and then the side effect of gravity not tearing the planet apart. So there's all kinds of interesting ways to look at that. But I those are the three that Jeff, I paired pretty well with you on that. Crypto terrestrial is probably my number one likelihood, after which I would say really it's a toss-up after that between the interdimensional hypothesis and the extraterrestrial hypothesis. I would love to have any one of those proven to be true. I can't say that any one of those would necessarily scare me more than the other, but at the same time, that I've had some people say, well, let's take a look at Dr. Stephen Greer. His viewpoint is these are all benevolent. There's no, we are more evil than any of them are. And I always felt that was kind of a naive take on things. I mean, sure, quite obviously, if these things are here and the advanced technology that we're seeing, I mean, Commander Fravor even said when asked by Congressman Ogles when they had their congressional hearing, would you be able to defend yourself if these things turned hostile? And both him and Graves immediately said, no, we'd not be able to defend ourselves based off of the technology and the flight characteristics that they saw. So if whatever these things are, whatever this NHI is, they haven't, done anything, hostile as far as we're aware. But who's to say that that couldn't change? And again, back to age of disclosure, that's kind of what they were driving at and explaining why we have to consider them a threat. And again, folks, there's difference between using the verbiage of something being a threat and something being hostile. Now, something being hostile means that they've already taken action and they've displayed that they can do harm and or, kill you. Whereas a threat, again, all kinds of things constitute a threat. Just because something is a threat doesn't mean that it's evil, doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means we have to be, we have to have our eyes and our ears about us to make sure that threat doesn't become hostile. And if it does become hostile, we have to make sure we have the means to whatever we can do to defend ourselves should that happen. But we're getting into a whole other conversation for a different day. So really, folks, that's let's just kind of go around the room, closing thoughts and remarks. Sure, we'll wrap up here. I just want to ask, so where do you see this going, and is it something to get excited about? And the third component to the final question that I'd like to ask all of you is, where would you like to see it go from here? So we'll start there, and Mr. Nyberger, we'll start with you this time.
Well, me, I don't get excited about anything like that these days, so I'm not going to get excited about it. The only things I'm excited for this year are Jay Stratton's book and the Disclosure Day movie. That's it.
What about Phenomicon?
Well, Phenomicon, yes. I mean, I basically arranged my year around Phenomicon. So
I thought you were going to say you weren't excited.
No. For those three things, yes. And that might be it. Pizza. Yeah. Oh, Lord.
We haven't.
Yes, I'm excited for
Forma yet.
Antica Forma. Yes, I'm very excited about that.
We hit our quota. Sir. We've mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. We have to
That's
mention
right.
it every episode. No, but I mean, I think it's interesting. I hope it adds additional pressure. I mean, just glancing through Twitter sure looks like it is getting people riled up a little bit. A lot of people are going to start asking some questions, hopefully, and maybe that does get something to come out. I don't know. And I see we got so distracted with Phenomicon, I forgot the rest of your question. What was the other part of your question?
Just where would you like to see it go next?
Oh, yeah, then I guess I would just say, yeah, I hope the pressure continues and maybe we get something. Even if we got an admission by someone official currently, well, actually, I don't, let me back up. I was about to say currently in office that says these things are real, but we already have that. We have members of Congress right now saying this stuff is real. So what is disclosure? We have a tweet from President Trump saying he's going to release all the information about these things as if they exist. Is that disclosure? What even counts as disclosure now? Who has to say it for it to be real?
That's a good question.
I don't even, now that I've thought of it that way, I don't know what the answer to that is. Video's not going to do it.
Right.
You show anybody video, people are saying, oh, that doesn't impress me. Where's the evidence?
A former
Okay, well, this
president of
is
the United States said it, and
Yeah.
didn't even really make that much of a news. It was just a blurb.
You show you show documentation. People will prove the documentation's real.
Mm-hmm.
There is no amount of disclosure that's going to satisfy anyone.
Not
So I
everyone.
don't know where it will lead.
Yeah.
Independence
But-
Day.
Right. Well,
Let's hope.
yeah,
not.
but I hope maybe if at least to have someone from, I don't know, maybe DOD or someone in some official capacity who hasn't yet spoken, maybe coming out and saying, okay, yeah, look, these things are real. Yes, we see this stuff in the skies. We see them on our sensors. We don't know what they are. They've been here a long time. We have it's true. We have a history of interactions with them. We're still studying them. We need to do more. Maybe we'll get that. I absolutely, without a doubt, do not think we will ever get, oh yeah, there's this top secret base near Area 51 called S4. And in the basement, there's an alien who's from the species that we just call J-Rod. Not going to happen. It's never going to happen. So I don't know. Temper your expectations. But it might be an interesting year, too.
Right on. I agree. Mr. Stratton, your thoughts. What is your overall assessment of President Trump's remarks, and where would you like to see it go next?
Well, I'm hopeful with the president's remarks. I'm not, I'm being cynical again. I'm not holding my breath. I don't think that we're going to see anything absolutely insane, anything we haven't already seen or known, but I'm hopeful that we will. One thing I do realize is clearly Avatar was a documentary, not a movie. That is just our war for, spatial oil, we'll say. But I'm hopeful to see in the future that disclosure continues. And we have people coming forward and coming out with things like books that are going to be talking about this stuff. Of course, the great Jay Stratton dad is coming out with his, as we've mentioned a few times. Hopefully this spring, sometime before the summer, we'll see that coming out. And I've got no real idea what's in it yet. Typical. We'll see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Phenomicon. I'm looking forward to the year to continue. That's kind of where I am. I wish I had a massive statement prepped.
No worries. No worries. Thank you for sharing that. Jeff, how about you? What is your overall summation of Trump's remark, and where would you like to see things go next?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, John Edwards and I keep talking back and forth about how we believe that Trump wants to be the disclosure president, and I think that he's worked on this for a while. Laura Trump, if you caught any of what she had said, she said that they were sitting around off of camera and all that with the family, and they asked him about this, and supposedly there is a speech already written about disclosure that he's sitting on waiting for the right time. And she said this. She said she goes, I think he actually told us that there was one. So I'm hoping that that's the case. I hope that he does want to be the disclosure president. Do I believe we're going to, as I mentioned earlier, do I believe we're going to get it all? No. And that's okay. I just want their admission that they know for sure. I'd like to see him I don't know if you've seen him do his table where he has each of his department heads go around the table and discuss, or give an update on what things are going on in their particular department. I'd like to see him do that same thing with the people that are involved in disclosure and go around the table and have them each give us. I think that alone would be a little bit more of a make it real for people
Mm-hmm.
in disclosure. But will we get it all? I don't think we will get everything that people want. And I don't think we should, like I said earlier about the whole machines and stuff like that, or any kind of technology that we have maybe gained in our military to give us an advantage. I hope we won't get that. And I really don't think we should. So, with that said on that. And so that's what I'd like to see happen. Do I think it's going to happen? I think if we hold their feet to the fire, keep this subject going, I think we will. Eventually, we're going to get the answers that we want. We're going to get them to admit, yes, which they, like you said, John Nyberger, they kind of already have kind of admitted this. Many of them have. So that's what I'd like to see. That's what I'm hoping for. And I'll leave you with one last little thought. We talked about cryptids. Is the tooth fairy a cryptid?
Are
So
fairies in general cryptids is the question, or is it its own thing?
they are actually, yes.
There
Yeah.
you go.
And I will say I pulled her quote up just because I was curious. I hadn't seen it yet. I don't think it's really that substantive. The quote says, "There is some speech he has that I guess at the right time he's gonna break it out, and it has to do with maybe some sort of extraterrestrial life." End quote. So
Interesting.
I don't know how
Interesting.
substantive that is, but it's interesting that she would say, he has some speech.
Well, if he has it prepared already, then it's probably not about bacteria on Mars.
But imagine about how much just speech writing he has done for him. Like how many potential speeches are out there about every
God.
imaginable thing already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
John,
true.
it's not the bacteria on Mars we got to be aware of, be scared of. It's the bacteria on Uranus. Sorry, I had to go there, folks.
Oh,
Subscribe. No.
I
dislike.
had a joke not like that lined up where I was just going to talk about how, well, the aliens, they were coming right from Uranus and they were in search of Mars, but they ended up at the corner store because they accidentally Googled wrong and were looking at Mars bars.
Yes, indeed.
We're
Well, for
idiots here,
my-
folks. Welcome.
Yes.
We'll be here all week, folks. Try the veal. Tip your servers. There it is. Right on cue. Right on cue. So yeah, folks, I think that Trump's statement was notable. It was historic. I think as we've mentioned here during our conversation today, it's going to be a conversation that will likely continue on with additional presidencies, additional administrations, particularly if anything of substance does come of Trump's directive in doing all of this. Do I think it's going to yield any real big results? The skeptic in me says no. The cynical, jaded old man in me says no. But yet I'm still hopeful that it will. I will always continue to maintain some modicum of hope that something will come out of this. And I guess that's just my natural streak of optimism that I have, for better or worse. But where I'd like to see it go is I would like to see this continue to be talked about in the mainstream. I'd like to see more and more people in the mainstream press and media be more willing to talk about this, have the kind of discussions and conversations that we're having. Maybe not so much about the Mars bars and the Tooth Fairy and all that stuff, but I would like to see this continue to open up new avenues of conversation, specifically among people that maybe haven't been paying attention to this topic to the extent that any of us have. Because the people that I'm encountering these days, whenever I go out and the opportunity presents itself to talk about this particular subject, is a lot of them really have no idea that there's so much data that's already come forward, and they only know, if they know anything, they've heard of Roswell. They've maybe might have heard of the Tic Tac, the Go Fast and the Gimbal, but most of them have never heard the stories about the school in Zimbabwe, the Ariel school, or they've never heard about the Kingman, Arizona crash. They've never heard about the Kecksburg, Pennsylvania crash in 1965. So as people are starting to learn about this and start really taking a deeper look into things like Skinwalker Ranch in particular, that's when you start seeing their reality start to change before your very eyes. And you can just see the lights coming on, like, oh my gosh, all this stuff that's been going on, and I had no idea. And so we talked about that word ontological shock. Somebody mentioned it a short while ago, and I think that's still a very, very much a possibility for some of these people as this topic begins to continue to, well, begins to continue is kind of ridiculous, continues to gather more momentum. I think more people's worlds are going to be shocked and rocked. And the one that we want to be really careful of, though, is not the ontological shock. And I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this word, but epistemological. Do you know what I'm saying? Getting at, John? There's like there's a difference. Ontological shock is kind of the lesser of the two impacts, as opposed to the epistemological. And again, don't ask me to spell it, but I think that's how it's pronounced. That's the latter one that I mentioned. The epistemological is the one where people are really will not be able to cope with it, will not be able to handle it. That's when you're going to see people being like, there's no way. This is too much for me to handle, and it's just end of the world scenario, a type of thing for them. And sadly, I think there is going to be a segment of society that would respond like that, because I have talked to people myself that are so entrenched in their belief that human beings are at the pinnacle of God's creation, intellectual and evolutionary progress. There's nothing greater than humanity in the universe, and we are all that there is, because we're until proven otherwise, that's all. And when that proof does arrive someday, and I think it will, those are the people that are going to be. Those are the people that we need to be concerned about. We need to be careful of how those people respond, and we need to have patience with people like that, because there's a lot of people that when they start to learn these things, they are going to have reactions that are it's going to be a hard day for them when they start learning these things. And because of that, we have to be kind, we have to be compassionate. We can't, sit back there and go, told you so, even though that's always going to be something some of us may want to do. That's the latent New Yorker in me, perhaps. But I'd like to see everything move towards some kind of a positive resolution. Whether that happens is anybody's guess. But like all of you have said, I'm not going to hold my breath on any of this, but I am optimistic. I am hopeful that something will come out of this. And if not that, then I still have Jay Stratton's book to look forward to, that I'm
Yes.
really, really excited to hear what he's going to be talking about in that. And the Disclosure Day movie by Spielberg coming up. I'm excited for that. And I think if we just remember, we have to keep telling ourselves that disclosure is the long game. It's not something that's going to be, over and done in a, quick space of time. I mean, look at how long it's taken just from 2017. It's been almost 10 years since that New York Times article. And looking back, yeah, we're further down the road than we were in 2017, but not really by much, are we? So again, I think it's going to take several more years before we really find something out, unless we do get the president or somebody of some position of authority that comes out and says, yeah, we're not alone. And for me, that's not going to be a shock, because I already don't believe we're alone in the universe or even on the planet. And I actually would embrace that kind of news with open arms. I would welcome that news. If anything else, my response would be, well, what took you so long? Kind of type thing. But to that end, folks, just want to thank everybody once again for tuning in today. Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us today. We sure
Appreciate it. Thank you for asking me.
appreciate your time, and as always, your insights are fantastic. We look up to you so much as a podcaster, and just an awesome human being all the way around. And can't wait to see you at Phenomicon and have some tacos with you. And
Yes.
we have to introduce you to Antica Forma if you haven't been there yet.
Haven't? Yeah.
You are in for a
So
treat.
good.
Folks, I'm going to put in a link to Jeff's YouTube channel in the item description or the video description below. So be looking for that. And again, tune into Jeff's podcast this coming Thursday for what is sure to be a fantastic conversation with Dustin Eskelson, the Utah director of MUFON.
Greg Cisco.
Greg Cisco of the MUFON chapter out of Illinois. So guaranteed to be a great conversation. Can't wait for that. Jonny, thank you so much for everything that you do. We sure appreciate you handling all the technical stuff here for us. And of course, your
Barely
insights.
handling it. Barely handling it.
You do a brilliant job, and we're so grateful. And your insights as well, and your sense of humor in particular, we love. So awesome stuff. And
That's the best compliment
John,
I've gotten in a while.
well, there you go. We appreciate you. And John, just thank you as well. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And folks, we're hoping to get Roger feeling well soon so that Roger can join us in the not too distant future. And we're still sending out our warm thoughts and prayers for Roger and his family that he'll get back to feeling much better and be able to get back to doing the things that he loves doing, because we sure miss having Roger here in the podcast with us. So Rog, we're thinking of you, buddy. So folks, if you liked what you saw today, and if you as well think that the Easter Bunny might be a cryptid, hit that subscribe button below or give us a like. Hit that thumbs up button, because we like getting likes, and we sure appreciate you for watching this. So until next time, folks, thanks for tuning into the Soul of the Unexplained. We will see you next time. See ya.